San Francisco gets a win against Tampa Bay, and they look damn good doing it too, Richard. The San Francisco 49ers are back to the team they were 6 weeks ago, and Brock Purdy, perfect passer rating today. Richard, 27-14, Tampa Bay, or over Tampa Bay today. Your thoughts on the San Francisco 49ers team right now?
Mitchell, I don't want to get too sexy. I don't want to get too dynamic, and I don't want to get controversial when I say this, but the last two quarterbacks that the San Francisco 49ers had that had a perfect quarterback rating in the season, that 1989 season, Mitchell, can you tell me who they were?
I'm going to go ahead and say it's Joe Montana.
And Steve Young.
I'm going to go ahead and guess. And go ahead. I was going to say the other one's Steve Young.
Mitchell, if those are, he's in great company. Mitchell, this is still a second-year quarterback. They scrutinize this guy like he's been in the league for a decade. He's a second-year guy, Mitchell, and he's playing outstanding. His touchdown to interception ratio is enormous. He threw for 333, 21 of 25 versus a Todd Bowles coach defense. That's who he played in his first ever start, was a Todd Bowles coach Tampa Bay Buccaneers team when Tom Brady was the quarterback, and he beat him. He beat him. And he won again, Mitchell, and he won convincingly. He threw accurate passes all over the field. He fed everybody. Brandon Ayuk, 5 for 156 in a tug. George Kittle, 8 for 89. Deebo Samuels got involved a little more than he has in the past few games, 3 for 63. But Mitchell, that defense, oh, I'm so hurt, Mitchell. I'm hurt. Talanoa Hufanga down with what they assume and what they're saying they think is an ACL injury. You hate to see it, Mitchell.
All eyes are going to be on Jair Brown, the rookie out of Penn State. Was picked on a little bit, made a couple decent plays, had an interception. But Richard, let's not make light of this. Losing Talanoa Hufanga, who's part of the all-name team. I know you love his name. Richard, let's hope it's not worst case scenario, but it didn't look pretty. What changes with this team if this is bad news and Talanoa Hufanga's out the rest of the year?
Mitchell, forget the all-name team. He's the all-game team. Mitchell, he's an all-pro. He's an all-pro first team last year. That's what you're missing. So, yeah, they come in and pick on the rook a little bit, but he came in prepared. He made a couple huge plays, a huge deflection in the end zone, then the interception to seal the game. He's going to be fine. He's going to be fine because he has so much talent around him. He has quality veterans. Tayshaun Gibson, who never gets enough credit, who hasn't got enough credit since he's got there. He is the epitome of consistency on this defense. But you know who showed up today, Mitchell? Nicholas, John, Bosa, got him a sack. Chase Young got him a sack. Eric Armstead got him a sack. Fred Warner forced fumble and got him a piece of a sack. Mitchell, it's still guys on this team. Deommodore Lenoir almost had him one. He couldn't get both feet down, but he made a heck of a play on the out against Mike Evans. So they still have the talent. They still have everything they need going forward. They're only getting healthier. But that's a huge loss for this team, and you just feel for them. They have a tough game coming up on a short week against the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle, and I know both teams are hyped for this game.
No question about it. It's going to be an awesome Turkey Day. And, Richard, before we leave this game, our friends over at Morgan & Morgan, we got to award our buddy Brock Purdy. Mr. Irrelevant is appearing to be super relevant at this point. He's this week's Making It Look Easy Player of the Week, brought to you by Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. Brock Purdy finished with 333 yards, 3 tutties, a perfect passer rating. Richard, you said he was critiqued, all this stuff. I think people forget he was the last pick in the freaking draft. I mean, what's there to critique? The guy has shown more than any other first overall pick, Mr. Bryce Young, this year. The guy's a stud in San Francisco. This team, all of a sudden, that window, that championship window that they saw was slowly closing, it's gaping wide for San Francisco right now. Brock Purdy is this week's Making It Look Easy Player of the Week. Richard, Brock Purdy on a rookie contract for the next 3 years. This championship window is a gaping hole. I mean, it's not closing anytime soon.
It's really not, Mitchell. And like I said, if he was a top 5 pick, Mitchell, I cannot imagine how they'd be talking about him. They'd be talking about him with Patrick Mahomes and as the face of the league in the future of the league. But since he's the last pick, all people can say is that they're waiting for the fall off, Mitchell. They're waiting for him to come back to earth. And it's been a year and a half of consistency from this young man, and he hasn't come back down to earth. Then they say he has all this talent around him. He has Kyle Shanahan. Well, guess what? Every good quarterback has some talent around him or great players around him, and they succeed. A lot of people have had these tools. We saw pretty much the same tools, minus Christian McCaffrey for Jimmy Garoppolo. We saw the same thing for Trey Lance. Not as many games. He didn't get to play as many games, but he never showed the kind of efficiency and effectiveness that Brock Purdy showed as soon as he stepped into the lineup. So at some point, they're going to have to give him credit. Either way, if he somehow takes this San Francisco 49ers team to a Super Bowl and wins it, he's going to take what he deserves, Mitchell, because he don't have to ask anymore.
He sure does. And Richard, he is, again, this week's Making It Look Easy Player of the Week, brought to you by Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. If you're ever injured, you can check out Morgan & Morgan. Go to forthepeople.com/Sherman or dial #law. That's #529. Winning in this league is hard. Not if you're Brock Purdy, but hiring Morgan & Morgan is extremely easy. Richard.
Mitchell.
Speaking
let me put a little bit more sprinkles on a Sunday.
Sprinkle away, my friend.
Mitchell, those two great quarterbacks we mentioned, Steve Young, Joe Montana, they didn't do it with 20-plus attempts, Mitchell. They were under 20 attempts. Had a perfect rating, but they didn't throw the ball this many times, Mitchell. Ooh, this kid might have something, Mitchell. He might have something in San Francisco.
Something magical happens when the third quarter ends and the fourth quarter begins. The energy changes. The fourth quarter is where games are won, where champions are made. And in business, it's where sales teams become legends. That's why HubSpot built Sales Hub, to give sales reps the deal-making tools they need to win in Q4 and close the year strong. Sales Hub's prospecting workspace organizes your schedule, goals, and to-do list in one place to save your team precious fourth quarter time. Smart sequences help sales reps close deals faster than ever. With an easy-to-use management tool, reps can find, track, and close deals all in one place. Plus, AI forecasting helps you accurately predict future success, which means less hoping for deals and more crushing targets. Put your sales team on the fast track to winning Q4 with Sales Hub. Learn more at HubSpot.com/sales.
When you win like the Detroit Lions won today, when they played their F-ball, Jared Goff played his worst game as a Detroit Lion today, and I'm pretty sure he would agree with that statement. And the Detroit Lions win. Richard, you've been on a championship team. You've been to the Super Bowl multiple times. You've played with elite level teams that have won when you guys weren't at your best. Richard, this is a huge statement win for the Detroit Lions. When you win, when you're playing your F game, you're a good team. I am stoked for this Detroit Lions team. I wrote them off in the third, fourth quarter. Jared Goff, 3 interceptions, a fumble on the kickoff. Yet the Detroit Lions get the W in pretty awesome fashion. Jameson Williams, big catch. Richard, I got to hear your thoughts on my Detroit Lions, because something tells me that they deserve to continue to rise in your power rank.
Yeah, Mitchell, I always got to be careful with the Detroit Lions, Mitchell, because every time I believe, they stop achieving. Every time I start believing, they stop achieving. So, Mitchell, I'm going to be very careful with their movement in my power rankings, but they will be on an upward trend. But that was a rough game. So it'll be limited upward movement because they were struggling throughout this game. But championship grit was shown this day because they weathered the storm. 3 interceptions, sacks, like everything was against them. They weren't playing their best. One of their best players, Jared Goff, wasn't playing his best. And they weathered the storm and were still able to come out with a win. When you see that you can win the game pretty and blow people out, you can win the game ugly, you can come from behind, Mitchell, it gives you a lot of confidence going into the playoffs, into these late games. It starts to make you believe that you can win it any kind of way. Now, yeah, do they still have a real bad loss versus the Baltimore Ravens? No question. But Mitchell, this was a huge win. And Detroit fans, first off, Mitchell, Detroit fans, y'all don't get to give up on games. Y'all don't get to. Because y'all been through too much to be giving up on games on a team that's 7-2. Y'all done been through too much.
We're starting to get spoiled, right, Rich. I don't know what to say.
Don't give up. Like Detroit used to be the Motor City, the blue-collar capital. Like, don't start getting cute now. It's still a blue-collar team. Let's stick with them to the zeros on the clock because they coming. And they went out there and won the game, Mitchell. When it needed to have it, Jared Goff drove the ball down the field, got a touchdown. Aiden Hutchinson with a strip sack for a safety. Like, Mitchell, when it needed to have it, they had it.
They sure did. I mean, and this is a revenge game, too, for David Montgomery, who puts in the go-ahead touchdown at the end of the game. I mean, this is a guy that the Chicago Bears said, hey, you can go to Detroit if you want. And I think he showed them wrong. Detroit's got a lethal combo between David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. And they got an offensive line that's top 1, 2, or 3 in the league. And that right there is something that can bring a team to a long playoff run. What concerns me about the Lions is their lack of pass rush. I mean, absent Aiden Hutchinson's strip sack at the end of the game, they had 0 sacks. They had 0 sacks last week. They had 0 sacks until they played the lowly Raiders. They hadn't had many sacks going on at all. So for them, that is their Achilles heel. Can they pressure the quarterback? But Richard, they got all week to worry about that. They're going to be playing on Thanksgiving against the Packers. I think they're going to get another dub. And this is the best record they've had since 1962. So you're right. I'm not going to be spoiled. I'm going to enjoy this moment. A win is a win. And the Lions are 8-2. And you know what? If Philly loses tomorrow, they're going to be tied for first in the NFC. That is wild.
Mitchell, it's super wild, but it's deserved because Dan Campbell has coached his behind off. His team believes, but you're right. In these playoffs, if you do not have a pass rush, and quarterbacks have all day to dissect a defense that they've studied all season for 17 games, Mitchell, it's going to be tough to win those games. But you got to feel good going into Thanksgiving against a division rival who has had your number for a number of years, and they're down right now. Jordan Love just probably had his best game of the season this past week. But I was in Lambeau when the Detroit Lions came to town, and it looked so blue in the stands. I forgot where I was at. Mitchell, it looked so blue. I thought I was at North Carolina or Duke or somewhere. Mitchell, it was different. And they believed, those fans flew out there to Lambeau Field because they knew their team was going to win. And so on Thanksgiving, I'm going to guess that field in Detroit is going to be packed.